cover the pivot latch. So this is an inch drawing, so I went ahead and started a standard inch file. We're going to start our 2D sketch, and we're going to create this on the XZ plane, which is our top view, because we're going to go ahead and let's zoom out a little bit here. We're going to create the base feature first, and then create this vertical feature off of the base feature. So the first thing that we want to do is I want to center everything using the radius of 1 and this radius of 2.5 to be able to create the rest of the components. So let's go ahead and select our circle, and we'll select the origin. I'm going to right click. So notice that it says diameter here, which means we are currently in radius. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 inch. And then go ahead and do my 2.5 inch. All right, let's go ahead and zoom out here. And then we notice that we have a 5-inch vertical line. And then also on this side here, which you won't be able to see it, we have a 2.5-inch vertical line. So let's go ahead and get those in next. Just somewhere here on the left-hand side, I'm going to type in my 5 inches. And then same thing, right click, repeat my line. Just somewhere over here, I'm going to type in my 2.5 inch. Okay. Now, to make sure that these stay where the midpoint stays in line with our holes here, I can go ahead and put a dimension from the end point of my line to the center point, and then just do the dimension divided by 2. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, the end point to the center of my line, and then I'll select my dimension divided by 2. The next thing is the overall measurement is 9 inches. So from our vertical line to our vertical line, we're going to put in 9, which moves this quite closer than we expected here. So I'm actually going to select move. I'm going to select both of these lines and then just use an arbitrary midpoint. Yes, we'll go ahead and do that. And we'll just slide this over. There we go. So we can get the actual correct measurement here. So we're going to go ahead and do our vertical measurement to the center of our circle is going to be 5 inches. So let's go ahead and get that in. And then we'll go ahead and complete this next component. So we do have a horizontal line going from our vertical to our circle here, where then we can trim off the excess and put that fillet in. We'll go ahead and grab our line. Let's zoom in a little bit here. I'm just going to bring my line straight to, actually, you can bring it straight into that circle. It doesn't really matter right now. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick trim here. Get rid of this excess. And then we're going to do our fillet, which is 1/2 inch. So let's go ahead and choose our fillet on both sides. So for now, that right-hand side is completely done, and we need to focus here on the left-hand side. So we see we have a radius of 1.5 inches. So that means somewhere on the vertical line here, we have a circle that's 1.5 inches. So if I select my circle here, again, just somewhere on my line here, I have a circle that's 1.5 inch radius. So we'll go ahead and put our 1.5 in. And then we're just going to move this. We're going to select our circle here. You can select a base point, just removing, and we're just going to slide it down. All right, so we'll do our move command. We'll select our circle. We're going to use the intersection between the circle and the vertical line. So we'll right click and let's do point snaps. Let's do intersection. And then notice how it grabs the circle at that point, and we'll put it at the end point here. So that gets our circle in the right location. So from here, the end point is 1.5 inches. Okay, so it means if I try to move it right now, I can't move it right now. So now let's go ahead and grab our circle. And we have a radius of 1.75, so put in 1.75. And then we can go ahead and make these tangent. Okay, see how it's not moving this circle here, but it's moving the circle that I have. So those are tangent. Those are the only two locations that it can be tangent. Okay, and we can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And again, we could do this a couple different ways. You know, this is just one way. So let's start off with our 1.5 inch circle here. And I'm going to go ahead and move it. Use my base point. That intersection. Move it straight up. And again, we can put that measurement from the quadrant to our center point as 1.5. So now we can't come in and move that circle. And then let's go ahead and get our radius of, what we say, 1.75. And we'll go ahead and do our tangents. And then at this point, I can go in and do some trimming. So we're keeping that curved portion, keeping this curved portion. Let's get rid of all this excess. Just saying I'm moving some constraints, so we may just have to delete that component or delete a constraint. Let's try that again. All right, so we can remove, let me try removing here and see if it'll let me trim it. There we go. Oh, and we also need to trim the interior of this piece here. It's like we're almost done. So at this point, when we do all this trimming, what ends up happening is now we have changed the constraints of our part. So let me hit undo. So we'll need to add some dimensions back in. So that's 2.5 inches. This down here is also 2.5 inches because these are now arcs. And you could make them equal to each other is another option. Same thing here. So depending on the order in which you put things, so we have a 1/2 inch. Well, we can select here what's the issue. So see how it's moving the center point. So sometimes that helps to come in and just drag it and see what you need to have. Same thing here. So we just have to be conscientious of what we're doing. Looks to me like I removed the constraint for my radius. Nope, that one's still on there. Although I don't see it on there. And again, if you ever need any help, you could do this auto dimension. But of course, I tell students be very conscientious of what you're choosing because it could be adding dimensions that you don't necessarily want to add as a constraint. So I'm going to go ahead and remove until we're done here. All right, let's hit done. We do have another hole in here that's a diameter of 1.25. And it looks to me like it is oops, on our axis line, but we'll just add a dimension. So that's diameter. So I'm going to right click and choose diameter. And that is hard to read if it's 1.25 or 1. It looks like 1.25. Yep. So 1.25 for our diameter. Then the location to my origin is going to be 0. So I somehow clicked just out in a random area. And then this should be, let's get back over 1.5. Okay, and then we also have a feature here that's a cutout. So I'm just going to use my rectangular feature. Size. It's just going to be 1/2 inch. So we're just going to select this here. And then from here to my origin. Actually, we'll do from here to here should be a 1/2 inch. So from my vertical line to my origin, we'll do half of that. Keeps it nice and aligned, and then we'll just trim off what we don't need. So let's go ahead and grab our trim. We don't need this here. And again, that's why I was saying kind of wait to fully dimension or fully constrained till you're done, because again, now I cut these two arcs into two separate items. So now it's not going to recognize it to have the same 2.5 inch. So take your time and make sure you fully constrain this piece. And again, if sometimes you need a little bit of assistance, you can always do this auto conversion. But like I said, let's hit done. You get some of these odd, 7.165. So what is that actually giving us? You can see that, yes, you still have your radius here, and they are a function of each other. So that's good. So again, just make sure it's fully constrained. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish our sketch. And at this point, we're going to extrude. And I think our thickness is 0.75. It is. So let's choose our feature, type in our 0.75. And then to do the last component, I'm going to flip this around, do a 2D sketch on this plane here. And then let's go ahead and move this to the other side so we can see it a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and put our circle in. We have a diameter. So change, we're still in the diameter, sorry. Put it as 1. We probably do want to make sure we're dimensioning to that origin should be 0. So it's nice and aligned. Our height is 1.5. And that's to this top line, not the bottom. Oh, I had it way too far up there. There we go. Our larger circle is a radius of 1 or a diameter of 2. And then we have our line. And notice it's going to be at the end. So make sure to see how it's snapping to that end point. And we come up here, we want to right click, point snaps. We want to do tangent. And it's going to be tangent to that circle. See? So it just makes it nice and quick. So again, make sure it's snapping to that end point there. Right click, point snaps to our tangent. And there we go. And then of course, the last thing you need to do, let's not mention, but to trim, finish your sketch. There's our sketch here. We can extrude. And the extrusion, we're going to come towards us. And it's also 0.75. And that's how you create the pivot latch.